Okay, we're live. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody, depending on where you are. And welcome. Thank you for joining us today on today's webinar, Five Payment Strategies to Drive Subscription Growth. My name is Mary Caldero, and I'll be your host for today's session. And before we get started, I just want to tell you about a few quick housekeeping notes. We'll have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, so feel free to drop in your questions in the Q&A panel during the session. We'll just address them at the end. And the other thing is that we're going to have a recording of the webinar, and we'll be emailing out the webinar to you shortly after today. So you'll have a chance to revisit discussion if you want, or share it with your colleagues. We're thrilled to have you with us, and we're going to discuss the right payment strategies that can reduce friction, improve the customer experience, which is all good to growing your subscription business. Now, to kick things off, I'd like to introduce Kevin Craig, CEO of Page Cooperative. And Kevin's going to tell us a little bit about Page Cooperative and then introduce our featured speaker, Kim Miller.
Great, thanks a lot, Kevin. Mary. I appreciate it, Mary. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm thrilled to represent Page today and be a part of Payway's webinar. For those of you not familiar with Page, we are the largest purchasing group in the US with well over 1,100 individual media companies and 80 suppliers. Similar to our preferred supplier in Payway, we've been in existence for over 40 years now. Payway's been one of our most loyal and innovative partners over the years, and like you all gathered today, I'm eager to hear the latest. With that said, I'd like to introduce Kim Miller, Executive Vice President of Strategy and Operations. Take it away, Kim.
Thank you, Kevin. It's a pleasure to be here and appreciate the opportunity to talk about one of my favorite subjects, payment strategies to drive growth. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, depending on where you are, like Mary said, and thank you for joining. Quick intro to Payway. Some of you may remember us as Edgel. We are a leading payment software company specializing in secure and efficient payment processing solutions for businesses that depend on recurring payments. Like Kevin mentioned, we have 40 years of experience. We continue to innovate, helping companies optimize their payment processing operations with cutting-edge technology and unparalleled customer support. I believe many of you are familiar with it, to turn payments into profit. If you're wondering where we fit in your tech stack, Payway integrates to most subscription management companies, as well as decline recovery solutions, call center systems, and e-commerce platforms similar to WooCommerce. We're here today to talk about how you can use payment strategies to reduce friction, improve the customer experience, and really, most importantly, grow revenue. Now, whether you're a startup or an established company, no matter the type of business you run or the vertical you're in, the one thing you all have in common is a checkout or a payment page. When it comes to checkout, friction is the enemy. It can sabotage conversion rates, derail the buyer experience, and overall that can hinder your business's growth potential. So what can you do to remove friction from the payment process? Well, according to a survey by Paysafe, 54% of consumers are more likely to shop with businesses that offer multiple and a variety of payment methods. Catering to the buyer's payment preferences, it increases the customer convenience and satisfaction, and it reduces churn rates, which brings us to our first strategy, which is give your customers payment options. Think about it. When you go shopping, maybe you want to use one card over another based on balances or reward points, or if you're like me, it's what's the first card in the Apple Wallet, right? What's that preferred method? It's the same for your customers. They want payment options. Give them to them. Provide your customers with a variety of options to accommodate their preferences and make it more convenient to make the purchase. This includes credit cards, debit cards, digital wallets such as PayPal, Apple Pay, Google Pay, bank transfers, ACH payments, EFT, and alternative payment methods. Then offering options like automatic recurring payments and the ability to change the payment methods easily, that is another way you can reduce that friction and improve the customer satisfaction. Now, what happens if you don't offer these multiple payment methods? You will lose out on customers. It's been proven time and time again that if a customer's preferred payment method isn't available, they will abandon the cart. And again, I always come back to think of your own experiences. You're your own best customer. So for instance, research by WorldPay found that 59% of consumers globally have abandoned an online purchase because the way they wanted to pay wasn't available to them. So another reason to offer multiple payment methods is if the initial payment declines, your customer can pay a different way. So you want to talk about decline reduction strategies, offer multiple payment methods. By giving them this fallback option, you increase the likelihood of them continuing with the purchase, and you've kept them engaged. Offering diverse payment options, integrating to a secure payment gateway, all of these things can ensure a smooth checkout experience. And a smooth checkout equals a satisfied customer. So speaking of wallets, hold on, having trouble with the slides. Thanks, guys. Whether your business is a subscription service, a digital media publication, an online shop, whether you're a manufacturer company, whether you're taking orders over the phone, no matter what you do, you are in the business of data protection. Every payment you accept is a financial transaction, and you are responsible for protecting that data. Why? You're thinking like, no, I run a newspaper. I run a manufacturing company. How am I in the business of payments? Well, that completion of a sale means you now have sensitive financial information, credit card details, bank account numbers, personal identification data, and nothing good happens if that data is compromised. Building trust between you and your customer is key to maintaining their business and your revenue. A breach of this trust can result in damage to your reputation, loss of customer loyalty, and overall it can impact the success and sustainability of your business. There's several studies out there that show how important trust and security are in the customer purchasing decision. There is a study that revealed 77% of consumers are concerned about the security of their personal information. And again, think of yourselves when you're at that checkout page. Baymard Institute reports 17% of online shoppers will abandon their carts due to a safety concern about whether or not their payment is secure. So one way to help with data security is to ensure that you are tokenizing transactions. Tokenization is the process by which sensitive payment card data, such as credit card numbers, are replaced with unique, randomly generated characters called a token. And the relationship between the original values and the token values are then stored in a secure vault. When a user or an application needs that correct data, the system looks up the token value and retrieves the original value. This allows customers to perform multiple, repeated, or recurring transactions without needing to enter their payment information for each purchase. Now, the nice thing about tokens is they are meaningless to hackers. According to Visa, tokenized transactions have a fraud rate of 0.1%. And that demonstrates the effectiveness tokens have in enhancing payment security. But tokens also do a little bit more. So they help foster that frictionless payment experience that is so important to the customer experience. Baymard Institute reports 28% of online shoppers abandon their carts due to a long or complicated checkout process. When you allow customers to store that payment information in the form of a token, it's great for future use and can help increase conversion rates. By eliminating the need to re-enter payment information for those recurring or repeat purchases, You've enhanced the customer experience. 77% of consumers agree their time is the most important thing a company can do to provide good online customer service. Now, another benefit is you're encouraging repeat business. Adobe has found that returning customers generate 3 times more revenue compared to one-time or first-time shoppers. And again, allowing a customer to keep a cart on file can reduce the number of steps in the purchase process. And that is going to significantly help your cart abandonment rate or your subscription customer initiated transaction. Whichever part of this relates to you, it's important to understand about the cart abandonment and how tokens can help reduce that. Tokens are also really important when you change providers. So it may come to pass that you've decided to move on to a different solution provider. The tokens represent your customers. So if you decide to move to a new system, be it a payment gateway or a subscription management company or a new AR system, you want that data brought over to the new system. Otherwise, you're going to have to reach out to each of your subscribers or each of your customers and ask for new payment information. For tokenization to work, you're going to need a payment gateway to store that data that allows for that token to be generated and that satisfies the PCI security standards for credit card processors. Now, some of you, I'm sure, are very, very familiar with the recent updates to PCI. They went to 4.0. For those that are not, the PCI data security standard, commonly referred to and much easier to say, is PCI DSS, is a set of security requirements and best practices. It's developed for organizations that handle credit card information. Complying with these standards helps prevent fraud. It reduces your chargebacks, all because you can prove you have taken the measures needed when it comes to your customers' financial data. It's also a great way to show those customers that you're securing their data and they can trust you. 58% of consumers feel more confident about buying from a business that displays a security seal showing they have met PCI requirements. Implementing payment security, it's a fundamental aspect of safeguarding sensitive customer information. It enhances customer trust, satisfaction, and repeat business. It will also save your bottom line. For every dollar lost to fraud, the real cost is $3.75. Now, I'm not always known for my mathing, but I can tell you that that is going to add up very, very quickly when you start getting into $30, $50, $100, $1,000 transactions. Fraudulent chargebacks often result in higher transaction fees and increased operational costs because now you get to go deal with the disputes and potential penalties from payment processors. And you really don't want to be doing that. You want to be focusing on your actual business. So, as merchants, you sort of need to decide what amount of fraud you're willing to risk to make the sale. The less information you collect at checkout, the more you will pay in the long run in the form of higher interchange rates, increased fraud, and possibly falling out of PCI compliance. Consider this. A frictionless experience for your customer is also a frictionless experience for a fraudster. Which is why, as counterintuitive as it seems, a little friction here and there is actually a really good thing. At the checkout page, you should collect at minimum the cardholder's name, credit card number, expiration date, card verification value, CVV, and the billing address and zip code. Naturally, you want to make things easier for your customer, but you also have to protect your business, and this is where fraud detection comes into play. Fraud detection is good for several reasons. Your customers like to know that you've got measures in place to protect their data, and doing so builds trust. But as a business, it also protects you from carding attacks, fraudulent transactions, and chargebacks. So what are some of the measures that you can take? Ask your provider whether they support BIN filtering. BINs, or bank identification numbers, can be blocked or filtered by country code or card type. Ask your provider, do they detect gift cards? For gift cards and for subscription companies, it's important to know it will go through the first time on a gift card, but not on the renewal. And so we at Payways see a lot of that within the transaction data, and that's how we know when the gift card is happening. We suddenly see a spike in those declines. So some customers, they may know that, they may not care. Either way, you now have to try to get another payment method from them. So that's why it's good to sort of explore whether or not you can block those gift cards. You should also look at possibly blocking prepaid cards, or maybe you want to allow reloadable cards. This is all things you can work with your provider on and find that balance between security and usability. And with any fraud prevention measures, you've got that balance. You want to have that optimal checkout experience, but you also need to protect your bottom line. Don't gas. Look at the analytics. Talk to peers, ask your customers, work with your provider to get that advanced reporting. It's important to be proactive, and customers like to know you care. So we've kind of gone through a bunch of things really quickly. The importance of accepting multiple payment types, cannot emphasize that enough. Enabling tokens, that's really table stakes in this day and age. Finding ways to find that balance between the experience and protection. All of these things are good. You should be doing them. I know a lot of you on here are doing them, which is great. Some of you will now move from here and go do them, which is awesome. So the question is, you've done the work, you're doing the work. The checkout page is perfection. You've led the customer to the point of conversion. You've asked them to submit payment. They do. Everybody is so excited. We're here. All that cost of acquisition is going to finally come to. The card's declined. Now what? Forrester and Recurly did a study on the critical role payments play in subscription economics, and it proves what you guys already know. Failed payments have consequences. 65% of respondents experienced a decrease in lifetime customer value. 61% lost revenue. 31% experienced operational or technical costs to recover those payments. Declines are expensive. So why do payments fail? There are various reasons. Some include insufficient funds. Some include expired cards. Could be incorrect card details, or there could be issues within that payment processing system. In the context of subscription or recurring revenue businesses, like many of you have, a failed payment can lead to that disruption in service or access for a customer. It will lead to a loss in revenue for you. So on average, payment declines represent a 15% loss in sales. There are decline mitigation solutions that can result in millions of revenue being recovered or never lost in the first place. Effectively managing and addressing failed payments is crucial to maintain your steady and reliable revenue stream. There are multitudes of solutions available that help with declines. The first and foremost, the best one as far as immediacy and ways that you can do this is make sure you've implemented Account Updater. Account Updater routinely queries the banks to see if there's updated account data, and if there is, the token is updated. So it eliminates that point of friction, and it's a lot better than having to hound your customer for a new card number. Then there are solutions that work at different points in the payment flow. For instance, we have a partner that will take on the decline at the time of purchase or renewal. They work with you to get a clear understanding of your customer base. They use the data to determine if the decline was due to insufficient funds or something else. In many instances, they'll actually fund that transaction, so there's no decline. You get paid, and they settle it on the back end. We work with another partner that turns declines into successful transactions after you've performed numerous retries. There are a lot of providers out there. We work with many of them. Happy to discuss this in further detail afterward. Any decline recovery solution is worth exploring, especially when you consider the customer lifetime value. If you have a $39 subscription and the customer life cycle is 24 months, that one failed payment just cost you $936. That figure does not account for the cost of acquisition. If you are seeing declines, and I'm sure you are, what are those decline codes telling you? Probably not as much as you'd like to know. Talk to your provider. Do they have a way to map all the card brand decline code to a common format so that you can inform your retry strategy? And what I mean by that is Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and American Express all have different decline codes for what could be the same exact decline reason. So it can be very difficult to manage and figure out, so work with a provider that actually has a common mapping. You also want to know, with this information, is it informing your retry strategy? And are you making sure that that retry strategy is not falling foul of Visa's excessive reattempts rule? So yes, Visa will penalize you if you continue to retry. They don't like it, and you will see a penalty. You will get fined. So declines pose a challenge, but they also pose an opportunity. It's an opportunity for insight, improvement, and ultimately sustained success. Because by understanding and addressing the reasons behind failed payments, you can recover that revenue, you can enhance that customer satisfaction, and you can drive growth. Now, subscription-based and recurring businesses thrive on customer loyalty and retention. Don't create friction when it comes to renewals, price increases, or modifications. I mean, we like to talk about frictionless experiences from an onboarding and a customer acquisition standpoint. It should be the exact same if they choose to go. You need to be upfront, communicate about change. This enhances trust, it reduces churn. Keep in mind, a subscription or a recurring payment, it's a relationship. It's an opportunity to foster trust and satisfaction with customers and create a positive brand experience. So give your customers the tools they need to easily view and manage their accounts and subscriptions. Let them upgrade, downgrade plans, adjust their billing cycles, and yes, you want to make sure it's easy for them to cancel their subscription. There was a study of 1,000 plus US digital publications, and the study revealed that 67% of customers, so we'll round up, 7 out of 10, would more readily purchase a new subscription if they thought it could be easily canceled. A lot of times we get a very specific question, and that is to offer the pause or not offer the pause. I'm a believer of the pause. One, financial advantage to you and the customer. So if the customer has a temporary personal hiccup, let's say, they got hit with, they need to buy a new laundry system or something, and they just don't now have the money for whatever, they want to be able to take that pause just for that month, and you're going to give them that break. And giving them that opportunity gives them some leeway, and it can prevent the cancellation. By letting them pause, you've also shown that you value them and their business, and it creates an opportunity to engage. 65% of consumers would reconsider canceling if they could customize their plan to their needs, including pausing. The data backs this up. Pause, let them pause. Think of yourselves as consumers and the many, many subscriptions you likely have, be it a digital publication or a streaming service or a meal plan. The ability to pause gives you control, and you feel much better about that experience. So with good account and subscription management tools, you can better cater to individual customer needs. You can ultimately encourage a longer and more positive engagement with your offering. And this approach not only helps in retaining customers, but it enhances your overall brand reputation. Having a good brand reputation is, that's so important. It leads to increased customer satisfaction and loyalty. If you provide options, you reflect a customer-centric approach. And that is what is necessary, dare I say, mandatory in today's competitive markets. So before I finish up, I just want to say, implementing these 5 payment strategies, it's a way to drive growth and enhance customer loyalty. It's so important in today's rapidly changing environment, that customer loyalty, which has been so fickle lately, that we have that and we grab hold of it. And by offering multiple payment options, embracing the security measures such as tokenization, incorporating the fraud prevention to protect yourselves, giving customers the power to manage the product which they have invested in, you can create this optimal payment experience, and in doing so, really drive the sustainable, predictable revenue and revenue growth. So before we open it up to questions, and I see there are some, thank you all very much. I just wanted to thank Page Cooperative again for the opportunity to share this information. They are a great partner. They've got some amazing programs. They've been around for a very long time. They understand your business, and I hope you are all taking advantage of what they have and can bring to you. So with that, let's get to the first question. And just hold on one second. I apparently didn't turn off notifications, so I should be
Kim,
heading to a school.
I got them for you, Kim.
All right. No, I just want to say I did put up my contact information if anybody has any follow-up questions. I know we're very grateful to have some of our current customers on, some prospective customers on. So certainly if you have any questions on anything I have presented today, please feel free to reach out. Again, I love talking payments and payment strategy. We are a software company that specializes in payments. I never tire of talking of it, as my staff can tell you. So.
Yes, I can tell you. She loves it. All right, everybody. Feel free to submit your question in the Q&A panel that's on the top. Let's see. Oh, to the right of chat. I'm going to be reading from them, and I received a couple from an email. So let me start off with, hey, Anne. Hello, Anne. Thank you for your question. Anne asks, if we were to move to Payway, is there a merchant ID warming process?
Great question, Anne. We have found that that's not necessarily necessary. How many times can I say necessary? It is a strategy that some folks do enable. We have found that based on the partners that we work with, and how we go about working and acquiring the MID, or you can bring your own, that's not really necessary. We work with our providers to make sure that's a smooth experience. Happy to discuss that with you in more depth, and put you in touch with one of our team that's very, very well versed in MID warming.
Thanks, Kim. And I hope that answered your question. If not, feel free to reach out to Kim. And
you can just put something in the chat like, "Oh, it was terrible."
Or put back, or give her a thumbs down, thumbs up. Okay, Donna, we have your question. So, okay, we talked about finding the right balance between adding enough friction to prevent fraud without frustrating customers at checkout. So how, again, can they find, or businesses find the right balance between the two?
So it's something we can kind of refer to as smart friction, right? I know it's counterintuitive, but you do want a little bit of friction in that process. So if you have tools like the bin filtering, address verification protection, all of these things can protect you against fraud without slowing down the experience for the good customer. And the reason, like for instance, bin filtering, if you have decided you're not going to accept credit cards from a certain country, the customers that are on the good list, if you will, and they don't have those bins blocked, they're going to have that smooth checkout experience. It's going to create friction and enter friction into when you've got those bad actors. So that's sort of that balance that you want to strike is, there are things that you can do that are active in the background, preventing those bad actors from finalizing through that checkout process, which is going to cause a carding attack or create a lot of chargebacks, while still allowing your customers that you want to come through that process where they're just entering what they're used to entering, right? Name, address, CVV, and zip. So smart friction.
Thanks, Kim. I have a question that came through email. Can you talk more about how Account Updater works, as well as the retry strategies, how they work together, maybe at different points, and how they can turn declines into successful transactions?
Sure. So both work to reduce the opportunity for decline. They work a little differently. So for Account Updater, again, I'll use us as an example because we're here. So we routinely query the banks, and we do that based on a certain number of days cycle, based on the amount of recurring payment or subscription payment cycles that customers are using. So it could be 97 days, could be 126, could be 367. It varies. We routinely query the banks to get that updated token information. Once that updated token is in, when that card goes to renew, it should not decline because the information has been updated. Whereas with recovering revenue by retrying payments at optimized intervals, you've gotten the decline already. The decline has come through. You can look at that decline code and say, okay, it's insufficient funds. Okay, you know what? Maybe we'll retry this again in 3 days, right? We'll give it another go. Maybe after that, if it still declines, we'll give it a go 3 days after that. So there's one where with Account Updater, it's very much active in the background. It's more of a passive, whereas when you get a decline and you're looking at those decline reasons, it's there that you're saying, okay, geez, it looks like we're not getting the right zip code information on a number of cards. So maybe it's then you go back to your checkout page and realize like, oh my gosh, it's not reading, for some reason the code's not reading the last 3, maybe it's supersizing it, not catching the last 4 or whatever it might be. So those are more active strategies that you can put into place that can then help reduce those declines. Account Updater is just great because it works in the background and it just sort of does its thing. And again, we've seen 20% reduction in declines just by implementing an Account Updater service. So we've seen people go from like a 14% decline rate down to like a 6 or 7, and then we work to optimize on those retries to get it down to like a 4 or 5%.
Thank you, Kim. I have maybe 1 or 2 more from email. So this is a last chance for everybody that's on to submit your question in the Q&A panel. The other question I have is, what payment methods do you see most consumers using today, and which ones are most important for subscription-based businesses to support?
So the latest research shows that credit cards and debit cards are certainly still, predominantly what is coming across. I will say, we are seeing a lift in digital wallets. Interestingly, for a while we were seeing, for many, many years, the de facto was PayPal. And over probably the last 2 to 3 years, I would say we're seeing an increase in Apple Pay and Google Pay over PayPal in some markets. Certainly interesting with with Apple Pay was initially there were some issues with Apple Pay and recurring payments. It turns out Apple had initially tied everything to the device ID. So when folks would get that lovely offer from AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile to come in and get a new phone, they would rush in and get it and it would be awesome for them, but not so awesome for all the merchants that had the Apple Pay coded in because it was reading a device ID. And so those renewal payments weren't happening. We actually worked with Apple to work and make it more about a merchant ID and worked with those developers on that team. So we've since then seen a sharp increase in sort of acceptance rates with Apple Pay, which has been great. I think there's benefits to each. Again, I think it comes down to which is the most important. For a while, I know everyone was talking Amazon Pay. We haven't seen that as much overall. We do see it in some markets, but really it's still credit card, debit card, and then Apple Pay, PayPal, and then probably Google Pay after that.
Thank you. I think that's it. Anybody else want to submit a last minute question? Anything? No? Going once, going twice? Okay, well, if you do think of something, again, you have Kim's email address on the slide and as well as her phone number. Give her a call. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Look out for the recording in the next few days. I will be emailing that out to you. And again, have a wonderful day. Thanks again for joining.
Thank you again, everybody. Really appreciate everyone's time.
Bye-bye.